Dr. Jake Morrison wiped sweat from his forehead as he stared at the broken glass container. The biolab on Outpost Darwin was supposed to be the safest place in the solar system. Now it looked like a war zone. Papers were scattered everywhere. Equipment was smashed. And somewhere in this mess, a very angry honey badger was loose. "Lisa, we have a problem," Jake said into his communication device. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking. Commander Lisa Carter's voice came back through the speaker. "How big of a problem, Jake?" Jake looked around the destroyed lab. 3 other containers were also broken. 2 contained harmless space, fungi. The third had held Brutus, their most recent test subject. Brutus was no ordinary honey badger. The genetic team had enhanced him for deep space research. They made him stronger, smarter, and much more aggressive than normal honey badgers. And normal honey badgers were already the most fearless animals on Earth. "Brutus is gone," Jake said. "He broke out of containment about 10 minutes ago." There was silence on the communication line. Then Lisa's voice came back, much louder than before. "The honey badger? The one that ate through steel mesh last week?" "That's the one." Pete Williams, the station's security chief, arrived at the lab just as Jake finished talking. Pete was a big man who had served in the military for 20 years. He had seen dangerous situations before. But when he looked at the destroyed lab, his face went pale. "Where is it now?" Pete asked. Jake pointed to a large hole in the wall. The hole led to the station's air vent system. He went that way. The vents connect to every part of the station. Pete pulled out his scanner and started tracking. "I'm reading movement in Section C. It's moving fast." Amy Rodriguez, the communications officer, ran into the lab. She was young and new to deep space work. Her face was full of panic. "Commander Carter wants everyone in the main control room. Now." The 3 men followed Amy through the station's corridors. Outpost Darwin was built inside a large asteroid that orbited Jupiter. The station had 5 levels and could house 50 people. Today, only 12 people were on board. That was supposed to make things safer. Instead, it meant fewer people to help catch one very dangerous animal. In the control room, Lisa Carter stood in front of a large screen. She was looking at readings from the station's sensors. Lisa had been in space for 15 years. She had dealt with equipment failures, meteor strikes, and even a small fire in the oxygen recycling system. But she had never dealt with a loose honey badger. "Status report," Lisa said when they entered. Jake stepped forward. "Brutus broke containment at 14:30. He destroyed most of the lab equipment before escaping into the vent system. He's enhanced, so he's stronger and smarter than a normal honey badger." "How much stronger?" Lisa asked. "He can bite through steel cable. His claws can cut through most metals, and he doesn't give up. Ever," Pete added. "He's currently in the ventilation system. I'm tracking him, but he moves too fast to predict where he'll go next." Amy suddenly looked up from her station. Her face had gone white. "Commander, we have another problem. I'm detecting ships approaching our position." Lisa turned to the main screen. 3 objects were moving toward the station. They were not human ships. The design was completely alien. Long and thin, like giant needles made of crystal. They moved in perfect formation without any visible engines. "First contact protocol," Lisa said. "Amy, try to establish communication. Pete, get all weapons online. Jake, we need to contain that animal before our visitors arrive." Jake nodded and left the control room. He knew the station better than anyone. He had helped design the biolab. Systems. If anyone could find Brutus, it would be him. The alien ships moved closer. They were beautiful but terrifying. Each ship was about the size of a city block. Strange lights pulsed along their surfaces. As they approached, the station's sensors detected powerful scanning beams. Amy worked at her station, trying different communication frequencies. "I'm getting something," she said. "It's not human language, but there's definitely intelligence behind it." On the main screen, the 3 alien ships had stopped just outside the station's defense perimeter. They hung in space like sleeping giants, waiting. Meanwhile, Jake was crawling through the ventilation system with a small tracking device. The vents were dark and cramped. He could hear scratching sounds ahead of him. Then he heard something else. a low growling that made his blood run cold. "Brutus," he whispered. The honey badger appeared in his flashlight beam. Brutus was bigger than a normal honey badger, about the size of a small dog. His fur was black and white and his eyes glowed with intelligence. But there was something wild in those eyes. Something that said he would fight anything that got in his way. Jake tried to move slowly. He had brought treats that Brutus liked. "Easy, boy. I have food for you." Brutus looked at Jake for a moment. Then he turned and ran deeper into the vents. Back in the control room, things were getting worse. The alien ships had begun to move again. They were scanning the station with increasing intensity. "Commander," Amy said, "I'm receiving a transmission. It's being translated by our computer." The main screen flickered. Then words appeared. "Unknown vessel. We detect dangerous life form aboard your station. Explain purpose of biological weapon." Lisa stared at the message. "Biological weapon? What are they talking about?" Pete's tracking device beeped. The honey badger just entered the docking bay area. At that moment, one of the alien ships extended a thin probe toward the station's docking port. It was clearly trying to establish physical contact. In the docking bay, Brutus had found something interesting. The alien probe had created a small opening in the station's hull. Air was rushing out, but the station's emergency systems had sealed most of the breach. Brutus approached the opening. He could smell something strange on the other side. Something new and interesting. Without hesitation, he squeezed through the gap and into the alien probe. The probe immediately retracted, pulling back to the alien ship. In the control room, alarms started blaring. "What just happened?" Lisa demanded. Pete looked at his scanner, in disbelief. "The honey badger's tracking signal just left the station. It's moving toward the alien ship." Amy's station erupted with alien transmissions. The computer was working overtime to translate the panicked messages. Breach confirmed. "Unknown predator has entered Ship 7. All units retreat. Repeat. All units retreat. Earth creatures more dangerous than calculated." The three alien ships began to move away from the station, but they were not retreating normally. They were fleeing in panic. Lisa looked at her crew. "Did we just accidentally send a honey badger to make first contact with an alien species?" Jake's voice came over the communication system from the docking bay. "Commander, I think Brutus just became Earth's first interstellar ambassador." On the main screen, they could see the alien ships moving away at high speed. But they were not leaving the solar system. They were heading toward the edge of human space, sending constant transmissions back toward their home territory. Amy translated one final message before the ships disappeared. "Alert all commands. Earth species more aggressive than anticipated. Request immediate reinforcement. The humans have deployed their apex predator." Lisa sat down heavily in her command chair. In the space of 1 hour, humanity had made first contact with an alien species and accidentally convinced them that Earth had sent a biological weapon to infiltrate their ships. And somewhere in the depths of space, a honey badger named Brutus was about to discover what alien technology tasted like. Commander Zixith had been exploring the galaxy for 30 years. He had seen gas giants with diamond rain. He had walked on planets where the ground was made of living crystal. He had even survived a battle with space pirates near the Vega system. But he had never encountered anything like the creature that was now loose on his ship. The thing had entered through the probe port on Deck 7. At first, Zixith thought it was some kind of maintenance robot. It was small and moved on 4 legs. But when Security Officer Ketra tried to scan it, the creature had turned and looked directly at them. Its eyes were full of intelligence and something else. Something that made Ketra step backward in fear. "Commander," Ketra said into his communication device. His voice was shaking. "The Earth creature is not responding to our stunning weapons. It appears to be completely immune." Zixith looked at the security feed on his command screen. The creature was in the ship's main corridor. It was examining everything with intense curiosity. When it found a wall panel, it bit into it. The panel was made of the hardest metal in the Zephyrian Empire. The creature's teeth went right through it. "How? Is that possible?" Sub-Commander Veltar asked. She was standing next to Zixith, watching the screen with growing alarm. Our hull armor can stop plasma cannons. That little animal just bit through it like it was soft food. The creature moved to another panel. This one controlled the ship's gravity system. It grabbed the panel with its claws and pulled. Sparks flew everywhere. The ship's gravity flickered on and off. "Stop it before it destroys something important," Zixith ordered. 3 security officers surrounded the creature in the corridor. They pointed their stunning weapons at it. The creature looked at them for a moment. Then it charged. The first officer fired his weapon. The blue energy beam hit the creature directly. It should have knocked the animal unconscious for hours. Instead, the creature shook its head and kept running. It jumped onto the officer's chest and bit his armor. Its teeth went through the protective metal like paper. The officer screamed and fell down. The creature jumped to the second officer. This time it bit through the officer's weapon. The energy device exploded in a shower of sparks. The third officer ran away. "All units, stay away from the Earth creature," Zixith announced over the ship's communication system. "It is more dangerous than we thought." On Deck 7, the creature had found the ship's computer room. It was fascinated by all the blinking lights and moving parts. It bit through 3 main processing units. The ship's navigation system stopped working. Then it found the communication array. The creature grabbed the main transmission cable with its teeth. The cable carried all communication between the ship and the rest of the fleet. When the creature bit through it, every screen on the ship went dark for 3 seconds. "Sir," the navigation officer called out, "we're losing systems throughout the ship. Whatever that thing is doing, it's working faster than our repair teams." Zixith had been in the military for most of his adult life. He had studied warfare at the best schools in the Empire. He understood tactics and strategy. But this was not a battle he knew how to fight. The enemy was too small to hit with ship weapons and too strong to stop with personal weapons, and it seemed to know exactly which systems to attack to cause the most damage. "Send a message to Fleet Command," Zixith ordered. "Tell them we have encountered an Earth biological weapon. It is extremely dangerous and appears to be specifically designed to destroy our technology." Veltar worked at her communication station. "Sir, our long-range communication is damaged. I can only send short messages." "Then keep it simple. Tell them Earth has sent a terror weapon. Tell them it cannot be stopped with our current weapons." The creature had moved to the engine room. It found the main power coupling that connected the ship's 3 fusion reactors. The coupling was protected by 6 layers of shielding. The creature bit through all 6 layers in less than 2 minutes. The ship's lights went out. Emergency power came on a few seconds later, but it was much dimmer. Half the ship's systems were now offline. "Commander," the chief engineer called over the communication system. "That thing just took out our main power grid. We're running on backup systems only. If it finds the backup power coupling, we'll be dead in space." Zixith made a decision that would save his ship, but doom the rest of the galaxy. "Prepare for emergency separation. We're abandoning the creature on the forward section and escaping with the rear section." Zephyrian ships were designed to split into 2 parts during emergencies. The forward section contained most of the equipment and weapons. The rear section had the bridge and living areas. In 30 seconds, the ship could separate and the rear section could escape using its own small engines. "Sir," Veltar said, "if we abandon the forward section, the creature will have access to all our navigation data. It will know the location of every Zephyrian world." "Better that than letting it destroy our entire ship," Zixith replied. "Begin separation sequence." The creature was now in the ship's library, where all their exploration data was stored. It had found a cabinet full of data crystals. Each crystal contained information about planets, trade routes, and military bases. The creature thought the crystals looked interesting. It bit one in half to see what was inside. The crystal exploded in a flash of light. The creature stepped back, surprised but not hurt. Then it bit another crystal. This one contained star maps showing the location of the Zephyrian homeworld. When it exploded, the creature seemed to decide that these glowing rocks were fun to break. "Separation in 10 seconds, the ship's computer announced. Zixith watched the security feed as the creature destroyed their entire database of galactic knowledge. Each crystal that broke contained years of exploration data. The creature was destroying information that had taken centuries to collect. 5 seconds to separation. The creature found the biggest crystal in the collection. This one contained communication codes for the entire Zephyrin fleet. It bit the crystal in half just as the ship separated. The rear section of the ship flew away at maximum speed. Zixith looked back at the forward section, which was now drifting in space. The creature was still inside, probably breaking more things. "Sir," Veltar said, "what do we tell Fleet Command about this?" Zixith thought for a moment. How could he explain that a small Earth animal had defeated an entire Zephyrian warship? How could he tell his superiors that they had been forced to abandon their ship by a creature the size of a pet? Tell them that Earth has deployed a new type of weapon, something we have never seen before. Tell them it can destroy our technology, and it cannot be stopped by conventional weapons. Should we mention that it's an animal? No, they would never believe us. Tell them it's a biological warfare device, something created by Earth scientists to infiltrate and destroy our ships. Veltar sent the message using their emergency communication system. Within hours, the message would reach every Zephyrian military base in the galaxy. They would read about Earth's new terror weapon. They would learn that human biological warfare was more advanced than anyone had imagined. Meanwhile, on the abandoned section of the ship, Brutus had finished exploring the library. He had found the ship's food storage area. The Zephyrians ate a kind of processed nutrient paste. Brutus tasted it and decided it was not very good. But he was hungry, so he ate it anyway. After eating, Brutus found a comfortable spot in the ship's command chair and took a nap. He was tired after all the exploring and breaking things. While he slept, the ship section drifted through space, carrying him deeper into alien territory. Back on Outpost Darwin, Jake Morrison was staring at his tracking device. Brutus's signal was moving away from human space at incredible speed. The honey badger was going where no Earth animal had ever gone before, and he had no idea that he was about to start the first interstellar war in human history. High Admiral Quaran stood in the main command center of the Zephyrian homeworld. The room was enormous, with screens covering every wall. Each screen showed a different part of the galaxy. For 300 years, this room had been the center of the largest empire in known space. Today, it was filled with panic. "Read the report again," Quaran said to his assistant. Intelligence Officer Mortel cleared his throat and began reading. "Emergency message from Scout Ship 7. Earth has deployed biological warfare device. Device immune to all standard weapons. Device specifically designed to destroy Zephyrian technology. Recommend immediate military response." Quaran had been a military leader for 60 years. He had conquered 12 star systems. He had defeated the robot armies of the mechanic worlds. He had even survived the great plague wars of the Outer Rim. But he had never heard of a weapon like this. "How many ships have encountered this device?" he asked. "3 so far, sir. Scout Ship 7 was completely disabled. Scout Ship 12 lost half its systems before the crew escaped. Scout Ship 15 is reporting that the device has somehow multiplied, and there are now several of them destroying different parts of their ship." Quaran felt cold fear in the pit of his stomach. A weapon that could multiply itself was beyond anything they had prepared for. "Send orders to all fleet commanders. Any ship that encounters Earth forces should retreat immediately. Do not engage." On Earth, Dr. Ben Taylor was having the worst day of his career. Ben was Earth's first contact specialist. He had spent 20 years preparing for the day humans would meet alien life. He had written protocols for peaceful communication. He had studied every possible scenario for first contact, but none of his training had prepared him for this. "They think we sent a biological weapon to attack them," Captain Roy Mitchell said. Roy was Earth's defense coordinator. He was a practical man who preferred simple solutions to complex problems. "Can't we just tell them it was an accident?" Ben shook his head. "I've been trying to communicate with them for 6 hours. Every time I send a message, they respond with demands that we recall our weapon or face total war." "What weapon?" "It's just a honey badger." Try explaining that to an alien species. They don't understand what a honey badger is. To them, It's a creature that can bite through their strongest metal and ignore their most powerful weapons. From their perspective, we created the perfect infiltration weapon. General Kate Brooks entered the communication room. Kate was in charge of Earth's military response to the alien threat. She had been in meetings with world leaders for the past 4 hours. Her face showed the stress of those conversations. "What's the current situation?" Kate asked. Ben pointed to the main screen. It showed a map of local space with red dots marking alien ship positions. The Zephyrian Empire has mobilized their entire fleet. Over 500 ships are moving toward our solar system. They'll be here in 72 hours. 500 ships? How many do we have? Roy answered. 12 combat-capable vessels and about 30 research ships that could be armed if we had time. Kate sat down heavily. So we're outnumbered 40-1 because of an escaped research animal. Meanwhile, Brutus was having an excellent day. He had woken up from his nap on the alien ship and discovered that his new home was full of interesting things to explore. The ship's artificial gravity meant he could walk on the walls and ceiling. This was much more fun than the boring research station where he had been kept in a cage. He found a room full of shiny objects that made musical sounds when he bit them. These were the ship's communication devices, but Brutus thought they were toys. He spent an hour breaking each one and listening to the different sounds they made. Then he found a room with moving pictures on the walls. The pictures showed other Zephyrian ships throughout the galaxy. Brutus was fascinated by the moving images. He tried to catch them with his claws. When his claws hit the screens, they broke and made pretty sparks. Soon, all the screens in the room were dark. What Brutus didn't know was that he had just destroyed the ship's connection to the Zephyrian intelligence network. The moving pictures had been live feeds from spy satellites and scout ships. His innocent playing had blinded the Empire to human activities throughout the galaxy. On the Zephyrian homeworld, the panic was getting worse. More reports were coming, in from ships that had encountered Earth terror weapons. Scout Ship 23 reports that the Earth creature has learned to use our technology. Mortel read from the latest message. It has somehow activated our ship's self-repair systems and is using them to create new weapons. This report came from a ship where Brutus had accidentally triggered the automatic maintenance robots. The robots were designed to fix damaged systems. When they found the holes that Brutus had bitten through various panels, they started welding metal patches over them. To the terrified crew, it looked like the Earth creature was commanding their own technology to rebuild itself into something even more dangerous. The creature has also learned to control our navigation systems, Mortel continued. It is directing the ship toward our home system. In reality, Brutus had found the ship's pilot seat and was playing with the controls. The bright buttons and moving displays entertained him. Every time he pressed a button, something interesting happened. Lights flashed, sounds played, or the ship changed direction. He had no idea that his random button pressing was steering the ship toward the most heavily defended system in the Zephyrian Empire. Admiral Quaran made a decision that would change galactic history. Send a message to all sector commanders. Earth has deployed weapons beyond our understanding. Their biological warfare capability is more advanced than anything we have encountered. We must assume they have similar creatures for every type of warfare. Sir, Mortel asked, what are your orders regarding the human home system? Complete quarantine. No ship is to approach Earth space. Any vessel attempting to leave the Sol system must be destroyed before it can deploy more of these weapons. On Earth, the tension was growing by the hour. Ben Taylor had finally established stable communication with the Zephyrian Empire, but the conversations were not going well. They want us to prove that we can control our biological weapons, Ben explained to a room full of government officials. They're demanding that we recall all deployed creatures and demonstrate our containment procedures. How do we recall something we never sent in the first place? Asked Secretary of Defense Linda Adams. That's exactly the problem. Every time we try to explain that it was an accident, they think we're lying. From their perspective, the timing is too perfect. First contact happens at exactly the same moment we deploy a creature specifically designed to destroy their technology. Captain Roy Mitchell was studying tactical reports when he noticed something odd. Ben, look at this. The alien ships aren't coming here to attack. They're surrounding our solar system, but they're staying far away. Ben examined the reports. Roy was right. The alien fleet was forming a perimeter around human space, but they weren't approaching Earth. They're not preparing to attack us. They're trying to contain us. What does that mean? It means they're not just afraid of our honey badger. They think we have an entire army of biological weapons. They're treating Earth like a quarantine zone. Kate Brooks realized the implications immediately. If they're containing us instead of attacking, that means they respect our power. They think we're too dangerous to fight directly. In the depths of space, Brutus had discovered the ship's food replicator. This was a machine that could create any type of Zephyrian food from basic materials. Brutus sniffed the first sample it produced and decided it smelled terrible. So he bit the machine until it started making different things. After several hours of random destruction, the replicator began producing something that smelled much better. It was actually a type of industrial lubricant, but Brutus thought it was delicious. He ate happily while the ship continued its journey toward the heart of the Zephyrian Empire. Unknown to everyone, Earth's first ambassador was about to arrive at the most important world in alien space, and he was very hungry. General Kate Brooks stood in the Earth Defense Command Center, watching 500 red dots move closer to human space. Each dot represented an alien warship that could destroy an entire city. The largest human fleet in history had only 12 ships capable of real combat. The math was simple and terrifying. "Any word from our diplomatic team?" Kate asked. Ben Taylor shook his head. "The Zephyrians refuse to negotiate until we recall our biological weapon. They keep asking us to demonstrate control over what they call the Earth Demon. Every time I try to explain it's just an escaped animal, they think I'm mocking them." "Maybe we should try a different approach," suggested Captain Roy Mitchell. "What if we show them videos of normal honey badgers? Let them see that these animals are common on Earth?" Ben pulled up a nature documentary on the main screen. It showed a honey badger fighting off 3 lions, then breaking into a beehive, then escaping from a zoo by climbing a wall and digging under a fence. "I tried that yesterday. It made things worse." Kate watched the video with growing understanding. "They saw this and thought we were showing off our biological weapons program." "Exactly. From their perspective, we casually keep creatures that can defeat multiple large predators, ignore pain, and escape from any containment. They think every human household has potential weapons of mass destruction." On the alien ship carrying Brutus, Science Officer Hexrel was trying to study the Earth creature from a safe distance. Hexrel had spent 40 years studying dangerous life forms throughout the galaxy. He had cataloged acid-spitting worms, giant space jellies, and even the notorious ice vampires of the frozen worlds, but nothing had prepared him for this. "Computer, begin recording," Hexrel said. "Subject continues to display impossible adaptation abilities. It has learned to navigate zero-gravity environments in less than 6 hours. It shows no fear response to any stimulus. Most disturbing, it appears to be learning our technology through trial and error." Brutus had indeed discovered that certain combinations of button presses made interesting things happen. He had figured out how to turn the ship's lights on and off. He had learned which lever controlled the artificial gravity, and he had accidentally discovered how to activate the ship's long-range scanners. What looked like casual play to Brutus appeared to the watching aliens as systematic reconnaissance. Each system he accidentally activated gave him access to more information about Zephyrian technology and territory. The aliens watching through hidden cameras were convinced they were seeing a highly trained infiltration specialist gathering intelligence. "The creature has now accessed our navigation database," Hexrel continued his report. "It knows the location of every military base, trade route, and civilian colony in our empire. Earth has successfully placed a spy in our most secure systems." Brutus had actually been trying to make the pretty star map move around because he liked the colors. But his random poking and prodding had indeed downloaded the entire Zephyrian star chart into the ship's local memory. If anyone from Earth could access that information, humanity would know more about alien space than the aliens knew about human space. Back on Earth, the situation was getting desperate. World leaders were holding emergency meetings. Military forces were being mobilized. And everyone was asking the same question. How do you fight an enemy when your only weapon is an animal that doesn't know it's a weapon? We need to make contact with our runaway honey badger, Kate said. If we can prove to the aliens that we can control it, maybe we can prevent a war. Dr. Jake Morrison entered the room carrying a small device. I've been working on that. Brutus has a tracking implant, but it's designed for short-range communication. I've modified our deep space communication array to boost the signal. Can you talk to him? Not exactly talk, but I can send simple commands that he's been trained to respond to. Basic things like come, stay, and stop. Ben Taylor looked hopeful for the first time in days. If we can make the honey badger respond to our commands while the aliens are watching, it might convince them that we really do have control. There's one problem, Jake said. The signal will take hours to reach him, and we'll need the aliens to be monitoring their ship when we send the command. The timing has to be perfect. Meanwhile, Brutus had made a discovery that would change everything. He had found the ship's communication room, where all messages to and from the Zephyrian fleet were processed. The room was full of blinking lights and moving displays. To Brutus, it looked like the most interesting playground he had ever seen. He started by batting at the smaller lights. Each one he touched sent a signal to a different part of the alien empire. Soon, communications networks throughout Zephyrian space were receiving random bursts of data. Military commanders thought they were getting coded messages. Scientists believed they were receiving new research data. Even civilian stations began reporting strange transmissions. The Earth creature has infiltrated our entire communication network, reported Admiral Quaran's intelligence officer. It's sending signals throughout the Empire. We believe it's coordinating with other Earth agents. The truth was that Brutus had discovered that pressing certain buttons made sounds that he enjoyed. He particularly liked one button that made a deep humming noise. He pressed it 17 times in a row. Each press sent an emergency alert signal to every Zephyrian military base in the galaxy. Within hours, the entire Zephyrian Space Navy was on high alert. Commanders who hadn't spoken to each other in years were frantically calling for information about the Earth invasion. Civilian populations on dozens of worlds were being evacuated to underground shelters. Sir, Mortel said to Admiral Quaran, we're receiving reports of Earth creatures on 17 different worlds. 17? How is that possible? The reports are confused, sir. Some describe creatures matching the original infiltrator. Others report different types of Earth biological weapons.
One world claims to have detected flying Earth creatures with sharp beaks and talons. These reports were coming from panicked civilians who had seen local wildlife and, in their fear, assumed any aggressive animal must be an Earth weapon. A flock
of native birds became Earth aerial assault units. A pack of local predators became Earth ground invasion forces. The galaxy-wide panic was creating its own evidence of human biological warfare. On Earth, Jake Morrison was ready to attempt communication with Brutus. He had calculated the exact time when the alien ship would be in the best position to receive their signal. The plan was simple. Send a command that would make Brutus sit still for a few minutes, proving to the aliens that humans could control their biological weapon. Signal ready to transmit, Jake announced. Do it, Kate ordered. The message traveled across space at the speed of light. It carried a simple command that Brutus had been trained to obey. Sit. Stay. Good boy. At the exact moment the signal reached the alien ship, Brutus was investigating a large red button that he had been saving for last. The button was clearly marked with warning symbols, but Brutus couldn't read Zephyrian writing. All he knew was that it was bigger and redder than any button he had seen before. The command signal from Earth reached Brutus's implant just as he pressed the big red button. His training kicked in immediately. He sat down and stayed perfectly still, just as he had been taught. The big red button was the ship's emergency beacon. When pressed, it sent a signal that meant immediate assistance required to every Zephyrian ship within 50 light-years. But because Brutus sat still right after pressing it, the alien observers interpreted his behavior differently. The Earth creature has activated our emergency beacon, Hexrel reported. But instead of fleeing, it has assumed a waiting position. It's calling for assistance from Earth forces. To the aliens, It looked like Brutus had deliberately signaled for backup and was now calmly waiting for reinforcement to arrive. The fact that he responded to the exact moment Earth sent their command signal made it seem like perfectly coordinated military operation. Admiral Coran made the decision that would doom any hope of peaceful resolution. The Earth creature has called for reinforcement. We must assume that more biological weapons are coming. All ships are to maintain maximum distance from Earth space. If any unknown vessels approach our territory, they are to be destroyed immediately. The war that nobody wanted was about to begin, and it was all because a honey badger had found the perfect place to sit down. Admiral Tony Garcia had been appointed as Earth's alien relations head 3 hours ago. It was the shortest job interview in military history. The previous person had quit after trying to explain honey badgers to angry aliens for 2 days straight. Tony was a practical man who believed every problem had a solution. He just had to find it before 500 alien warships decided to end human civilization. "What's the current status?" Tony asked as he entered the command center. "Bad and getting worse," replied General Kate Brooks. "The aliens think we're preparing to invade their entire empire with biological weapons. They've quarantined our solar system and are threatening to destroy any ship that tries to leave." "And our honey badger?" Dr. Jake Morrison looked up from his tracking equipment. "Brutus is approaching the alien homeworld. His ship should arrive there in about 6 hours. If he gets there while tensions are this high, it could trigger the war we've been trying to avoid." Tony studied the situation reports. As bad as things looked, he noticed something interesting. "The aliens haven't attacked us yet. They have 500 ships, but they're staying away from Earth. Why?" Ben Taylor answered, "They're afraid of us. They think we have an entire army of creatures like Brutus. From their perspective, if we keep honey badgers as research animals, what else might we have as pets?" Across the galaxy, Elder Diplomat Morden was having similar thoughts. Morden was ancient even by Zephyrian standards. He had lived through 3 wars and helped negotiate peace treaties that had lasted for centuries. Unlike the younger military leaders, he was more curious than afraid about the Earth creatures. "Show me the reports again," Morden said to his assistant. "Which reports, Elder?" "All of them. Every encounter with Earth biological weapons." As Morden read through the reports, he began to notice patterns that others had missed. The Earth creature never attacked unless approached. It seemed more interested in exploring than fighting, and most importantly, it showed curiosity about everything around it. "This behavior does not match any weapon I have studied," Morden said to himself. "Weapons are designed for specific purposes. This creature acts like it is learning." Meanwhile, Brutus was indeed learning. He had figured out that the ship's food replicator would make different things depending on which buttons he pressed. He had also discovered that he could change the temperature in different rooms, and he had found that certain control panels made the ship spin in amusing ways. What Brutus didn't realize was that his experimentation was being recorded by every sensor on the ship. To the watching aliens, his systematic testing of ship functions looked like advanced reconnaissance. They believed he was mapping their technology for future Earth invasions. The ship carrying Brutus entered the outer defense zone of the Zephyrian homeworld. Immediately, 50 warships surrounded it. Admiral Coran was monitoring the situation from the planet's surface. "Status of the Earth weapon?" Coran asked. "Still active, sir. It has somehow learned to pilot our ship. It's maintaining perfect formation with our defense fleet." This wasn't exactly true. Brutus had fallen asleep in the pilot's chair, and the ship's autopilot was keeping it in a stable orbit. But to the aliens, it looked like the Earth creature had mastered their navigation systems and was calmly demonstrating its control. Back on Earth, Tony Garcia was working on a desperate plan. "We need to get close enough to that ship to retrieve our honey badger. If we can bring him home, maybe we can prove to the aliens that this was all a misunderstanding." "How?" asked Kate Brooks. "They'll destroy any human ship that approaches their territory." "Not if we ask the right alien for help." Tony had been studying the alien communication intercepts. Most of the messages were military reports full of fear and anger. But one set of messages was different. They came from someone called Elder Diplomat Morden, and they asked questions instead of demanding action. Ben, can you establish direct communication with this Morden person? I can try. But why would he help us? Because he's asking the same questions we are. He wants to understand what's really happening. Elder Diplomat Morden received the human communication request while he was reviewing footage of the Earth creature. In the latest video, the creature was doing something that looked almost playful. It was rolling around in the ship's command chair, apparently enjoying the way it spun. Strange behavior for a weapon, Morden observed. When the human message arrived, Morden was intrigued. Instead of demands or threats, it was a simple request for a meeting. The humans wanted to show him something that might explain their biological weapon. Against all military protocol, Morden agreed to the meeting. He arranged for a neutral space station at the edge of Zephyrian territory. Both sides would send small ships with minimal crews. Tony Garcia arrived at the meeting with Jake Morrison and a bag of honey badger treats. Morden came with 2 guards and scientific recording equipment. For the first time since the crisis began, humans and aliens were in the same room. Your biological weapon has caused great fear throughout our empire, Morden said. That's what we need to talk about, Tony replied. It's not a weapon, it's an animal. A very stubborn, very curious animal, but just an animal. Morden's translator worked for several seconds on the word animal. Finally, it produced a Zephyrian term that meant non-intelligent creature kept for companionship. You keep non-intelligent creatures that can destroy our warships. For companionship? Jake Morrison opened his bag of treats. They were small cubes that smelled like meat and honey. These are what Brutus really wants. Not galactic conquest, not military intelligence, just food and interesting things to explore. That exact moment, alarms began sounding throughout the space station. The ship carrying Brutus had somehow found the meeting location. It was approaching at high speed. How did it track us here? Morden asked in amazement. Jake looked at his scanner and smiled. He's following the scent of his favorite treats. I've been carrying them for 3 days. The ship docked with the space station. A few minutes later, Brutus appeared in the corridor. He had learned to open doors by watching the aliens do it. He walked into the meeting room, looked around at all the strange new beings, and focused on the most important thing in the room. Jake Morrison was holding a bag of treats. Brutus walked over to Jake, sat down, and looked up expectantly. His tail wagged slightly. He made a small chirping sound that meant, "Please give me food." Jake gave Brutus a treat. The honey badger ate it happily, then rolled over on his back to have his belly rubbed. Morden watched this interaction with growing understanding. This is your terrible biological weapon? This is Brutus, Tony said. He escaped from our research station and accidentally got onto one of your ships. Everything that happened after that was just him being curious and hungry. Morden looked at Brutus, who was now chewing contentedly on a treat while Jake scratched behind his ears. But our ships, our technology, he destroyed everything. Honey badgers explore by biting and clawing, Jake explained. It's how they learn about their environment. Brutus wasn't trying to damage your ships. He was just investigating everything he found, and the way he responded to your commands. We trained him to respond to basic signals. When he heard the command to sit and stay, he did what he was taught. It had nothing to do with military coordination. Morden was quiet for a long time. Then he began to laugh. It was a sound humans had never heard before, like wind chimes mixed with distant thunder. You mean to tell me that our entire empire has been mobilizing for war because of a curious pet? Basically, yes. Morden laughed harder. And this creature, which has caused more panic than any weapon in our history, just wants food and belly rubs. Brutus, hearing his name, looked up at Morden and chirped hopefully. The ancient alien diplomat reached out carefully and patted Brutus on the head. Brutus leaned into the touch and made a happy, rumbling sound. I must contact Admiral Coran immediately, Morden said. This misunderstanding must be corrected before someone does something truly foolish. Within hours, the message spread throughout the Zephyrian Empire. The terrible Earth biological weapon was actually a pet. The invasion fleet was just one confused animal looking for food. The systematic destruction of their technology was curiosity, not warfare. The reaction was not what anyone expected. Instead of anger or embarrassment, the galaxy erupted in amazement. The idea that Earth casually kept creatures like Brutus as research animals made humanity seem incredibly powerful. If they could train such formidable beings as pets, what other wonders did their planet hold? Trade delegations began arriving within weeks. Scientific expeditions requested permission to study Earth's wildlife. The Zephyrian Empire offered a formal alliance, hoping to learn humanity's secrets of biological mastery. Earth became the most respected planet in the galaxy, not because of military might or advanced technology, but because they had convinced everyone that they were casual masters of incredibly powerful creatures. And Brutus? He became the most famous animal in galactic history. He received honorary citizenship in 12 star systems, had a space station named after him, and got all the treats he could eat. Sometimes the smallest misunderstandings lead to the biggest changes, and sometimes the universe's fiercest diplomat is just a honey badger who won.